Today we're going to talk about when your garden goes off script. So I had several things that worked out and didn't work out during this last gardening season. And I wanted to talk through it because I wanted to be real about the gardening that I do. I'm not a horticulturalist. I'm not a master gardener. I'm an environmental biologist with over 10 years of experience and a whole lifetime of growing things. So it's new, but it's not new. And this is probably my first actually getting to grow things my first year of actually getting to grow things in the Phoenix area. And it didn't all go according to plan. As a matter of fact, almost none of it went according to plan. So let's just start with what I first planted. And what I first planted were tomatoes. Tomatoes in the summer is definitely an in-ground plant. It should never be planted in one of those self-watering pots that you have to try to keep full during the heat of summer with tomatoes that are just water-hungry fools. And I could not keep that thing full. By the end of the summer, the tomatoes looked like they were going to die off. So I'd actually taken some trimmings and put them in water to grow them, to get them rooting and try to save them that way. And I had some, and then late September hit, and all of a sudden, as the heat let up, they just took off, and they were growing tomatoes, and all of a sudden I could keep water in the reservoir, so they did much better, and I actually have a pretty good harvest of tomatoes on the plant right now. I actually just went out there to kind of I forgot what they call it, but it's basically where you cut off the plant. It's where you cut things off above where the tomatoes are growing so that you force the plant to actually ripen those tomatoes faster. Also made sure that everything had enough sun and there was nothing looking diseased or dying on the plant. But I want to make sure that they had all the tomatoes that are on the plant right now have full sun so that they can ripen and get all those sugars into the fruit. So get everything developed. That was the first derailment. It might have been right along the same line was the sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, I was told, hey, you've got this compacted soil in this area. Sweet potatoes are great because they're big, they just break up all the compacted soil, and they love the heat. I took their advice. I planted some sweet potato slips in these, I call them little growing trenches. I didn't try to dig up a whole area. I just dug little trenches, and I'm not kidding, they were only maybe 2 or 3 inches wide, a foot long. One was a foot long, the other one was probably 2 feet long. I threw a ton of compost, these potato slips, and I threw some mulch on it, and I covered it in shade along the way, and those things just exploded. They went everywhere. They grew everywhere. And when I pulled them up and put them in the compost pile at the end, I want to say it was like middle of October, maybe even to November by the time I pulled them out of the ground, because I was like, I gotta get other things growing. Those things have not stopped growing. They've just found ways to root wherever they're at in my compost pile, and they're just growing. I can't kill them. So I think I'm just gonna go with it and put them in some grow bags or something. I'm not really sure, but if you see sweet potatoes growing in my yard again, it's because I can't get them to die. I thought I would compost it, and it's just not cooperating. Loofah. I grew loofah because why not grow loofah when I'm going out to these classes to learn how to grow in this particular environment? And they're like, oh, loofah will be wonderful, and there's sponges, and it didn't really do anything except climb upwards for a while, and it honestly looked like it was going to die most of the time, even though they said It's great. Well, I think if I plant it earlier in the year, it'll have more of a chance to grow. The aphids love it, so I was continuously out there trying to spray it down with peppermint oil soap stuff and rubbing the leaves. And I think I need to actually go and wash them off, but the ants partner with these aphids. Actually, the ants farm the aphids is what it is. I didn't know that was a thing. I hadn't really witnessed ant farming, aphid farming. I just have seen aphids take over, and then you buy ladybugs and those come in, and hopefully you like kill off the aphid population in time. Lost lots of plants that way. But the loofah has survived all of that. I don't know how, but it did. And then it started producing loofah. And now it's still producing loofah. And we're mid-December. And I've got, well, I harvested one today because it was really fully grown and it was already solid. You can go and you squeeze them and just see how tender they are. And if it's solidified, then that means that the seeds have had a chance to ripen inside and it's formed all the fibers and everything. By the way, if you didn't know, your loofah sponges are not grown in the ocean. They're not actual sponge from the ocean. They're not the animal sponge. They're the plant sponge. And I grow them now. Who knew? So I have 4 or 5 of them still on the plant with little tiny ones ready to grow. I don't know what frost will do, if we'll get frost this year. They might just grow all the way through the winter and keep going. I have no idea. We'll see. Again, off the rails, just doing whatever it wants, not following any rules. Okay. Which is fine. That was number 2. Actually, that's number 3. The other thing is potatoes. My potatoes, I've been trying to grow potatoes for years. I have not been a good potato farmer. It's probably been the worst thing that I've ever had experience with. I don't know why I have not been able to grow potatoes. I took a class to see how to grow potatoes here. So I have my potatoes in my grow bag. We'll see if those grow. But out of my compost pile, what did I find this morning? Yeah. I found a potato plant growing out of my compost pile. So my compost pile is now going to turn into another raised bed. It's already got stuff growing in it, and it's got lots of nutrients. Obviously, my potatoes love it, and I want potatoes, darn it. So my most neglected area is now ground zero for growth. Potatoes want to grow, the potatoes can grow. I'll go with it. So I think this is number 5 that I'm going to talk about. I was not expecting to plant sugarcane. I didn't know that sugarcane grew here. I had no clue, but now I own 5 of them. 5. Who knew? So I was telling my sons we're going to grow sugarcane, and I buy organic sugarcane because the process for your regular bleached out white regular sugar it's from sugarcane. Probably shouldn't be saying their name, but that's who I bought from 4 years. And I believe they have organic sugar now too. But when I drove by the sugar processing plant in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it smelled disgusting, absolutely horrible. And I found out how much of a chemical process it is. I was like, never again, never. So I started buying organic, and then now I'm growing it. And my sons were like, no, we've never eaten cane sugar. And I was like, yeah, you've eaten it your whole life, whether it was organic or not. That's the kind of sugar that we have. And they were like, no, we've had Pepsi or we've had other sodas. And so there's no way that there's cane sugar. And I'm like, that every sugar there is, unless you're not eating actual sugar, glucose, is from sugar cane. Even in your major soda drinks, it's sugar from sugar cane. That's where it comes from. So I think, what I learned from all of this is that there's so many people, including myself, that are disconnected from where our food comes from, how it actually comes about. Like, how do we get the dyes for our food, our color? Or I guess you could use it for food too. I'm going to try to grow indigo. It's my experimental plant for the spring. But where do we get our loofah sponges from? There's so many people that I've talked to that think they grow in the ocean, and they don't. They don't grow there. I studied invertebrate zoology. I studied sponges and all of that stuff. I did not know that. I didn't know that was not that. And now I do. And I actually had to do the emergency harvesting of the seeds and the loofah last night to try and save it from the mold that was growing on it. I had it in a brown paper bag, trying to get it to dry out, and it didn't dry out. Apparently there's too much moisture in that bag. Now, the other two that were in there with it, I have them out. I have them in a dry environment. I probably should even wipe them off with bleach just to get the mold off them from the loofah that was in that same one. But I wanted to make this video because I want you to know that most gardeners go through this, that it's not a perfect road. You learn to roll with the punches, and hopefully you don't have too many of your own, but I'd love to hear your experience and be able to commiserate, but at the same time have a good laugh and enjoy it, and know that we're going to try again, and it's going to be a better year next year. All right. Happy growing. Have a good one.